And welcome to the We Like Sports podcast. This is your host, Ed in Columbus, flying solo right now, but hope to be joined by Casey shortly and a special guest at 5:30 to talk NBA and Denver Nuggets. But since it's just me and I'm an old guy, let's talk a little U.S. Open PGA golf. Yesterday, as we all saw, Wyndham Clark from Denver, Colorado. Luckily, there was no shootings, hopefully, after he won the United States Open Championship in somewhat dramatic fashion, even though as it came down to the final couple of holes, it was really just him not screwing up for him to claim the championship. But I'm wearing orange, as I am obviously a Cleveland Browns fan, and Ricky Fowler, who the crowd obviously wanted, him being from Southern California. And my personal favorite as well. I've kind of grown to be a Ricky fan. Maybe it's the underdog because he's yet to win a major. Now he's probably the greatest player ever to yet win a major. That distinction was on Phil Mickelson for many years, and he overcame that. And so I would love for Ricky to get it done, but it was nice to see Ricky afterwards signing autographs and everything, being a good sport. So congratulations to Wyndham Clark of Denver, Colorado for being United States Open champion 2023. And I see that we got my tag team partner, Casey, coming in. Thank goodness, because now I don't have to speak golf anymore. So Casey, without further ado, how you doing, my guy?
I'm good. What's going on, Ed? How's it going in Columbus?
Well, it's not exactly the most sunniest of days, even though I'll take a day in Columbus over a day.
Oh, believe me, Ed. I was out at the park before I got back, so I was a little late. It's like 95 degrees here. So and add humidity, you could imagine. I flew back yesterday evening, so.
Yes. Yes. As you're obviously you were in Cleveland for the past week. Now you're back
Correct.
in beautiful Orlando, Florida, where you said 95 degrees. I wonder sometimes how Mickey, can survive wearing that.
Exactly.
But
it's crazy.
I see that you're wearing a Denver Nuggets jersey. Yeah, like I said, at 5:30, we have a special guest. Oh, the Joker. Now, is that recently just purchased, obviously?
No, I had this one. I got it for interesting fact, $15. In Cleveland, last time I was home, at Burlington, $15. So.
Well, they did have an early exit from the playoffs, I think, last year. Somewhat. So,
I couldn't pass it up. I like Jokic. So when it comes to basketball, I was happy they won. I'm a fan. I liked how he reacted to. He wasn't really after the game, the championship game. Couldn't even tell you when the finals. He was. If you looked at the podium, he was in the back corner the whole time. So that was actually interesting to me to see how he wasn't. You know what I mean? Just so relaxed after his winning the biggest thing in his league.
Well, like I said, we'll get back into that. I want to circle back to that around 5:30 whenever special guest on. But I know you love baseball. Let's get into it. Bo Naylor joining the big squad yesterday out in Arizona. What are your initial thoughts? I mean, obviously he didn't have a hit.
I was going to say he was the only guy on the team without a hit yesterday.
Yeah, he did have a run. I mean, I got to give him some credit, but I didn't watch the whole game. I saw his bits and pieces. Now, he didn't have anybody run on him, did he?
I don't know, because I was flying. My flight was from like 5:30 to 8, which is when the game was, and I listened to the beginning of it, and when the lights turned out and stuff, and they kind of waited a half hour, I saw that or listened to that on the radio, but I didn't get a chance to actually see.
Yeah, I didn't mention, and I should have looked in the stats, but I had a couple people tweeting at me saying that when he got called up, he was only 10 of 65 or 10 something like that in Columbus, throwing runners out, and runners are going to run all over him. And I don't know about that. I mean, obviously, being a rookie and things to that point. I mean, I guess he's still classified as a rookie. Not as many.
Correct.
Major league at bats last year. So, obviously they're going to try to run on him, but our pitchers have to do a good job of helping him out there. And they scored 12 runs yesterday, Casey.
Correct. I was going to say we talked about it 2 weeks ago whenever we talked about Bo Naylor and everything. I think I made the point saying that Naylor caught a lot of these guys, when they were in the minors. And I was listening to Hammy on the radio, like I said, at the airport, and he said the same thing. He said him and the pitcher yesterday, Tanner, they said they've played together in Columbus near you for a while. So they have the chemistry, which, I mean, it looked like it because, they did 3 runs, I think, yesterday, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so, he called a decent game for only 3 runs against number 1 team, right? So, I guess I didn't see if he caught anybody with the runs aspect of it. It's like we've said, they're either on or they're off. It's like not an in between of it, and it's not really consistent. Now Naylor has been killing it, right? And I think you're the same as me. If you view Josh Naylor, you don't think of a 15 hit streak, hit game in a row hit streak, right? I think of him kind of a power hitting 240, 250, hitting 20 some home runs, and coming through in the clutch like he has been, but hitting 290, and having that hit streak really isn't what you. I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm very happy with it, but that's not the Josh Naylor you think you signed up for, which I'm more than happy about. And Rosario had a good game too yesterday. So, and we've talked about him before, where he kind of starts the season slow, but he's kind of still been, he hasn't seen the turn yet in my eyes, but it's just such a tease, man. Every game it's like a roller coaster.
Well, speaking of, I'm glad you said that because of feast or famine. I remember obviously Friday night scoring only the one run off the Jose Ramirez home run, and then I'm watching the game. Saturday night, national TV, Fox Sports, TV, FS1, and it's 2-2 going into the bottom of the eighth, and Bieber implodes, giving up the home run ball. Which I know a lot of people would say, why even bring him out for that inning? But obviously he only had like 86 pitches at the time. He's your ace. You got to bring him out, but. Going to something that I hate to talk about, and we have to, because we were talking about the Bieber, whether or not we should trade him last week. I think, with the Tristan McKenzie issues.
Yeah, he's on the DL now.
What are your thoughts on Tristan McKenzie? How long do you think he's going to be out? And this is not a good thing if you're the Guardians.
No, it's not, because like we said, it's crazy. We said it was like a roller coaster with him. The first week we talked, man, this is exactly the McKenzie we need. Second week, downhill. Now, we were going to see what was going to happen, but now he didn't even get to play, so it's not promising, that's the worry we have, and we got to see, if Logan Allen, pitches the way he has been, and stays, good, because that's what's helping us. And then I think it was last week I read a Plesac, right? So he's done with us, but Savali's back on the team,
Well, then Plesac didn't he not clear? I think no team passed on him. Isn't he back in Columbus? I think.
I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked because he's.
I think. You never know. You never know. He might be back.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and then we got rid of Richie Palacios last week. I saw as well, or that past week we went through. Yeah. But I don't know, man. It's an Arias. Arias is worrying me a lot because he hasn't again. He proved me wrong 3 weeks ago when I said he's looking great. Now he's looked like shit since then. So I don't know, man. It's there's potential we have, right? You see the glimmers like we just saw yesterday. And the game that was what game? 2 nights ago, 3 nights ago when we were up it was the 6 runs in the first inning.
Oh, that was the Padres game, the last Padres game.
Yeah. And then it was 8-7 we won, and I wasn't confident that whole game we were going to hang on to it. That it's frustrating, I don't even know. But the Twins, like we've said before, aren't doing much to stay out, the takeaway. Because if we had a good team in our division, there'd be no chance. Yeah. If we had a team that would take advantage of the weak division like we want us to do, like we have been, we're done, like you said. But
because only 2 games out of first in the loss column.
That's what I'm saying. And if we have, I'm sure, not right away, but a series of the Twins eventually coming up, and that could be one that could make a big difference. If we sweep them, they sweep us. It's a momentum changer.
Yes.
Right. It's just like Peyton Vince in the softball league. He gets swept in the softball league or vice versa. His team's going down. So.
Speaking of Peyton Vince, if Peyton Vince wants to hop off, looks like we lost him.
Peyton Vince hopped off.
Yeah, he said no mas.
What do you think? What do you think of the Guardians, Ed?
Well, here's the thing. Okay, it seems like one thing goes right, and then something goes wrong. They fix something, then something else goes
Welcome
wrong.
To Cleveland, Ed. Welcome to Cleveland.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. The only thing I got to say about that is, obviously they might make a move, okay? If you had to make because it's probably going to be a minor move or something to pick up.
Yeah.
What do you think where would you go? Would you go maybe some bullpen help, another starter, maybe another bat that could never hurt? I mean, if you're the GM and you can only make one move.
Yeah, I was going to say you could use a move on every aspect of what you said. You could use another hitter, you could use another pitcher or a bullpen arm too. I think it just depends on what we give up. It's if you give up Bieber, what do you get in return? Like we've talked before. Who else could you see move? Like a minor league player I could see, because we're not giving. I don't think maybe Rosario.
Yeah.
On the major league, I don't see us making a move that would drastically affect the roster we currently have. But I would say, oh man, I don't know. We've been good with getting those. What's it called? The bullpen arms we've been getting.
Yep.
Right. We've been, like, over the past, since Brad Hand, Andrew Miller, everybody we've got. Simber. They've done good for us. We've given up a lot to get them, but the guys we got rid of didn't do much where we traded them to. So I would say, man, I would just say a bullpen, because
I agree.
Like we said before, you look down the road in the history, what comes into play in the playoffs? It's getting to that seventh inning and being confident that we're set. We had it with Miller and Cody Allen. We don't have that now, because Karinchak went down. Stefan, right? We paid Stefan that money. I don't think he's doing that bad, but he is the home run ball.
Yeah.
And when you get to those spots where you have eighth inning close games, you can't get that home run ball. You can't do that. So I think a bullpen, because like I said, the starting pitchers, looking way back, Ubaldo Jimenez, we got him, right? He didn't do shit for us. We got him. That was a big acquisition, right?
I've never seen a guy look so good one night and the next 5 starts look so bad.
He had like that 0.6 ERA, man, like through half the season we traded for it. It was crazy. And like I said, he was nothing. So I think with consistency, the safest bet is getting a bullpen arm, because you could pick up a hitter, but we've got depth. We have too many guys right now that don't get the at bats they need.
Yes.
So I don't want to clog that up more with what we have, because the infield are tight. I mean, the outfield, we have some, but there's still people that can play in right field, like Brennan. If Brennan plays the way he does, and you never know. Every year we know too. September comes, August, we get some guys that we didn't. Oscar Gonzalez last year, who comes up and produces for us when we need it to happen. So I think that, like I said, I think a bullpen arm, and we'll get rid of a top farm prospect. I think in a trade for that scenario. I don't know who I would choose. I don't know who's on the market, who's available to go for. But I think I would go bullpen, because it's the safest bet.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Well, I won't bash on the Guardians too much more, because Peyton sent me a topic. I thought it was rather. I
didn't look at. So this is all new to me. I didn't look at any of the line. If he said anything to us, I didn't see it. So this is all. I don't know what we're talking about today.
We'll bash the New York Yankees for a minute, because just like any GM in any city for any sport, they're always going to be under the microscope. But Brian Cashman, if you look at some of the moves that he's made over the last couple of years, choosing Clint Frazier over Bryce Harper, Donaldson over Matt Chapman, and IKF over Correa and Seager. I mean, there's some moves in New York, and you look at them, it's like, I know they can always outspend and try to spend their way back through their mistakes and everything. But I think Brian Cashman, he's missed on some big names there, and went with some other ones that not exactly working out for the New York Yankees. So, I mean, I guess my question to you is, obviously, besides us, having fun in Cleveland, watching a guy struggle a little bit with personnel, is
correct.
Maybe I think the Guardians and teams, like, look at the Cincinnati Reds. I was going to get into them and how hot they're doing, or these small market teams that are trying to compete with the Dodgers and Yankees, and especially with the personnel and the moves that they have to make. What are your thoughts on? Is it maybe even sometimes easier to be cash strapped and have, because with the expectations and things, look at Cincinnati, you can keep your job going, making the playoffs maybe once every 3 years, it seems.
Yeah, correct.
But the onus then would be, you better have a good farm system. The Yankees don't have to worry about having a good farm system, because they can just
find. Yep, exactly.
Their farm system is everybody else's players that they can't afford.
Yeah, correct. That's exactly what it is. But it's, you look at it's like those times where, I don't know if you do it, but I've done it many times. You're with your buddies, and it's like, oh, we're talking about sports, and then, the 2011 draft, whatever, Deion Waiters, like, who could we have drafted instead of them, right? Look at all the things getting passed up.
Makes me cry usually.
Exactly. I wish that we can go back to these things and then see, like, the big names in those drafts. Were they actually at all even? Did anyone know who they even were? Like Jokic. They turn off the TV, the Taco Bell commercials on, he gets drafted, right? So I'm sure if you pull anybody's, there's some missed opportunities. But the negative is for everybody else is, like you said, the Yankees, Dodgers. If they make those mistakes, guess what? Just do this, and then come on in. You know what I mean, to make up for it. Whereas, okay, we always talk about the Michael Bourne and Nick Swisher, right? You know why we think about that still? Because we really haven't signed many big guys after that. You know, in New York, it just goes right over their head because the next day, guess what? We got a big name coming in. For now, the Shohei, right? We're getting Shohei next year, etc. Right? So there's always that talk. Whereas for us, when we swing and miss, it's a swing and miss for the next 10 years. And then we always say, oh, the owners are worth spending money because when they did it, look what happened. We just pissed the money away and got nothing in return.
Wasn't Encarnacion, wasn't he the next one after those?
In Napoli, I think Napoli was around, you know, he was around there too. And then Josh Donaldson we got mid-year. You know, he didn't do shit for us. That was I thought that was great. I applauded that when we got him because that was the gap we needed to fill. But he didn't do anything for us. But I would say it's the negative is, like I said, you said, to the big markets, they could just spend that money and it kind of gets overlooked. And no offense to Yankees fans or Dodgers fans, but I think we care more about the teams than they do. Where we know that the trades they make, the plays they make, the moving up Bo Naylor, down Bo Naylor, etc. The other teams, I feel like the Yankees, they're casual fans, right? Where if they're winning, they're winning. They know the big names, Judge, Stanton, stuff like that, but they don't know anybody that's in their minor league system. There's some fans, right? But I don't think that the majority of those Yankees fans,
I totally
that
agree,
have that hat on, don't know what's going on.
They're only concerned about what's at the major league level because, as Cleveland fans, we see somebody get drafted because we actually even pay attention to the draft and think, okay, in a couple years, this will be our number one stud pitcher / hopefully hitter, even though Cleveland doesn't really do well when it comes to developing hitters.
Yeah, correct. Well, they were talking on the radio too about Bivey yesterday. They said he was the 5th round pick in 2021. And he's made the major league team in 2 years. Wow. That's pretty impressive for baseball. Because we talked with Drew, he said that the average time, what is it? Was it 5 years or is it more than that?
5 to 6 years, I think.
5 to 6 years. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He'd make the team. He made it in 2 years. So it's like we talked again before. Ahead of schedule. Expectations and you're ahead of schedule. Yep. Bivey is ahead of schedule. So let's say he struggles. Let's just say the rest of this year, he gets moved back down. I mean, are we going to bring him back up ever again? Or are we going to keep him down just because he failed that one time? Or you look at it again, like we said with Drew, 5 years, he's 3 years ahead of that plan of getting on that major league team, right? And as a pitcher, it's tricky, and then the other negative is I'm sure you know this, when you get moved up, there's no tape on you. And if you haven't played the minors that long, the guys don't know anything about you. So you could start real hot, but then once that tape gets on you and the batter starts to, get your signs and get kind of like the little things that the mannerisms you do, then that's the worry too, is that then they catch up to you and it's like a Colin Kaepernick. It's they'll figure you out type thing, right? You're good to start with, but if the tape gets on you, then it's like, how do you adjust to it?
Well, I'm glad you said that about the tape because even that applies to veterans. Because look at somebody like Shane Bieber, for instance. Okay, he was striking out 9-10 people a lot, in his first couple of years, and now he's becoming the type of pitcher that if he gets 5 to 6 strikeouts, but now he's getting those ground balls. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
I mean, he's becoming a different pitcher because of it now. So I like what you said about the tape and everything. And the tape don't lie; they figure you out, and you can get in trouble. So. So I think that, with baseball, I think we're going to head on over to a little football action.
We're not talking Rangers today, man. There's no Rangers A's update. I thought that we were the hot spot for the Rangers and the A's. I thought here now.
Yeah, I think that's.
Let me just before we go to the field, I want to pull the standings. Let's just see where they're at right now.
Okay, fair enough. I don't want to.
I'm curious. I want to see our buddy from last week. We can't let him down. He might be listening right now. Alan might be listening right now. Yeah. All right. Update AL West.
Ranger talk. I love Ranger talk.
Rangers 44-27. They are 4.5 ahead of the Angels, 5.5 ahead of the Astros, and 8.5 ahead of the Mariners. The A's have cooled off since last week. They have lost 5 straight. So they won 5 straight last week. Going after we talked about, now they lost 5 straight. So they haven't won, I think, since last week's show. They're at 19 wins. And they are at 25% with the winning percentage. But yes, as of right now, the Rangers are still pulling away. Rays 5 games ahead of the Orioles in second, 10.5 ahead of the Yankees, which is good for me. I'm happy with that. As you said, the Twins are 2.5 ahead of the Guardians. We'll head to the National League real quick. Like we said, you said the Reds. The Reds and Brewers are real close in the top. Half game splits them in the first place. That's this AL Central. I think is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
because the 4 teams on the top, there's only a 4-game differential.
Is
That's going to be a
St.
big
Louis
one.
still in last place?
Yeah,
Wow.
by 8.5. So the top 4 are 4 games apart. The Cardinals are 8.5 away. And then you got AL East is the Braves are starting to pull away. The Marlins are kind of, dropping back down. Diamondbacks are 3.5 ahead of the Giants. Dodgers are on the climb though with 4 games back, so they could always, make that run with the people they got. But that is the wrap up of around the
We're gonna
league with the standings.
every time we do this, we're gonna do a segment where you do the standings update. But I think as a show, we need to adopt. I know Alan said he's contractually obligated to talk about the AL Central. I want to do a thing. We are going to adopt. And we're going to showcase and focus on the American League West the rest of the way. We love our Rangers, and we got to talk about the Oakland A's. So that's going to be the division that we focus on, other than the AL Central with our Guardians.
Correct.
So
that is the move.
Officially adopting the American League West.
I must say, since we've been looking at the standings, I am more in depth with what is happening in baseball with the teams. That's when I go through this every Monday. I have a pretty good wrap around my mind of how the standings look every week. Now, if it comes up in conversation, just because I look at it every Monday now, so it has helped me.
It has
conversations. Yes.
I agree with that, and especially as I've gotten older too. Back in the '90s, if you named any team, I'd say you said Houston, I'd like Biggio, Bagwell, Randy Johnson. Now if you name me a team, I don't know if I can name one player on some of these teams.
Correct, I agree with you. Like I said when we pulled the A's that time, like I don't think I can name. I agree. So it's definitely helped with that aspect of it.
Okay. Well, I think we've hit the diamond pretty well. I think Peyton would be happy with that. So there wasn't too much going on in the National Football League, but I wanted to. Peyton sent me a story, which as an Ohio State Buckeye fan and a Justin Fields kind of guy, I'm happy to see that all reports indicate that he's doing really well in Chicago. And somebody was Dom Kleeman, I believe, big NFL
Dove Kleiman. Kleiman, yeah. I know his name because Pat McAfee pulls his stuff.
Oh, okay.
It's Dove Kleiman, yeah.
Dove Kleiman, yeah. He was saying that don't count him out as being an MVP candidate. So, my thing with Justin Fields, okay, I've watched him. I watched him at Ohio State. The receivers at Ohio State get open. They get really, really, really wide open. So it's easy for a quarterback to hit them. In the NFL, you never have that kind of separation that you do in college football.
And I think it's cornerbacks and receivers at Ohio State. And it's because they thrive against each other. So when they play in practice, they have those two groups that they clash. So in the games, the competition's not even near what it is when it comes to the practice.
Like Northwestern.
So I think that is exactly Rutgers. That's what I think helps. Is I think we're the powerhouse for cornerbacks and receivers. But that benefits the quarterbacks, like you just said right there with that aspect to it. So, I mean, what do you? So I always ask the question, the Dak Prescott question, right? I'm going to ask you we're not Bears fans, but I'll ask you the Bears question.
Right.
Is Justin Fields the answer? Is he taking the Super Bowl? Do you think that he's taking the Super Bowl? No.
I think he's a stat guy. I think he's next. He's Randall Cunningham 2.0, but I thought Randall Cunningham could throw the ball better. When I watch Justin Fields play, his first inkling is always to run. And
I have no problem with the Bears. If the Bears do good, let's get the Lions. If those two teams are successful, I won't be upset. Like kind of like the Nuggets to me, right? Like I'm not mad if they're good or the Heat. So I think in the NFL, I'd say
just don't be like Browns in the Super Bowl, like the Cubs.
Yeah, exactly. Did. Correct. Exactly.
Lovable losers until they beat your team.
So we were talking about Fields and MVP. I know you don't think so with what you just. I don't think you do. So
no.
I just pulled up, the history of the MVP in the NFL, right? And I was just curious because Fields is not he's not a top 10 quarterback, I would even say, right? So even a franchise guy at the moment. So when you look at, I pulled it up. I was curious in the last how many guys kind of surprised you in one MVP who aren't usual players. So I'll just go. Let's just say 10 years ago, right? Okay. We'll start there. So we had 2013 Peyton Manning. That's not a surprise. Next year, Aaron Rodgers. Not a surprise. Mm-hmm. Cam Newton is in 2015, and Matt Ryan is 2016.
Okay.
So those are kind of outliers, right? But those players, like Cam Newton, could be similar to Fields.
Yes.
Matt Ryan, I don't think he's I think was in a pass heavy offense. Shanahan might have been there, I think, in that time frame. He was. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. So I think that was more of a pass heavy, big stats, right? Yeah. Then you got Tom Brady again, which then Mahomes in 2018, but he was not where Like, I don't think going into 2018, we were thinking he was what Fields is going into 2023 for this
Exactly.
year.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. So that was his first one, but I don't think it was like, holy shit, like this is so surprising.
I mean, his first game, didn't he pass for like 300 yards?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I
like
mean.
that last game of 20, whatever it was.
Correct. So I don't think it's that surprising. 2019 was Lamar Jackson. I don't know.
That's
Correct. I don't know going into 2019 what we were. I don't think we were expecting it. I don't think he was a favorite. I wish I could quickly type in, 2019 preseason MVP predictions, see what he was predicted to be. But he could be similar. So the two that stood out were Newton and Jackson that are similar to him, right? So he could take that leap, and then it's Rodgers, Mahomes, right? So usually from history here, looking at it, it's usually big name quarterbacks. So I wouldn't be shocked. Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, if the Chargers have a good season, and kind of if they overtake their division, I could see him if they do take the first place, which they haven't yet because they struggle always. They have a good team, but they struggle. But if I wouldn't be shocked if Herbert was, could maybe get MVP if the team goes on a run like they should. I think that would be the one that would be a surprise for me. Okay. But Josh Allen, I could see getting it because he hasn't won one yet. Mahomes, you can get one again. Yeah. You never know what Rodgers and the Jets. You don't know how he's going to be. He could, go back to how he was when he was playing good 3 years ago. There are just so many tough quarterbacks. It would be hard for me to think that Justin Fields is good enough to lead the Bears to where far enough in. Because if you look at, I'm sure if you pulled it up too,
you have to win games too.
Yeah, all these teams, I think, made the playoffs and made it deep in the playoff with these guys as the quarterback. It's not like they had a great season when 8-8. I don't think any of these teams when 8-8 near the quarterback won. So that's why you got to think of a good team and statistically, right?
And that's the thing with the Bears. I mean, are they going to be a good
team?
Team?
And Fields doesn't put up pass. I mean, he could throw the ball, but he doesn't put up large passing numbers, right? So it has to be a Lamar Jackson year where he runs for a lot, is efficient passing, gets the touchdowns when he needs to on his legs, and in the red zone efficiency, and the team is good. They make the playoffs, and I would even say make it past the wild card if they make the wild card for him to even,
now,
to have a chance.
You've made me feel better about his chances because of like the names that you threw out there with Newton and Jackson. The only the caveat in that to me holding it back is, will the Bears be good enough as a team?
Exactly.
And I think that's my biggest.
That's why I'm telling you, Justin Herbert. I do think that. I mean, I'm not saying he's won the MVP, but I think that there's a chance that he could. If there was a surprise person, I could see it being Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow. Right. That's the other one. If I had to put money right now, I had 3 people to pick from. I would say Burrow, Herbert, or Allen. There's gonna be a first-time MVP winner this year. It's one of those 3.
And Texas Rangers winning the World Series.
Yeah, exactly. Put a parlay together for me.
You got to throw something out there.
That'd be big money if I had the Rangers win the World Series and one of those 3 win the MVP. I'm sure.
Another issue regarding, this is now going to college football because we'll talk, what I'm saying, is what do you think about Coach Prime Time, Deion Sanders? The news came out that he might lose his foot. He's already lost 2 toes because of the circulation problems. And, I remember Deion doing this high step in and, I think that's kind of sad, but I like what he's doing.
I didn't even know he did that. He lost his toes. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, I read a couple of years ago, I was staying up with it a little bit, and then you hear about that. And it's just like, watching these guys get older, I'm still, like I said, Deion doing the high step in and everything. And, they're mortals too. And they get old like we do. And, it's fun to see him having great coaching success. And hopefully he can turn things at the University of Colorado around. What do you think? What do you think he's going to be at Colorado? What are your initial thoughts of Coach Prime?
I would say all hype. I'm going to be truthfully honest. What was he, Jacksonville State or something before? Yeah. So who are they playing, right? So if he had successful games in years, who are they playing that is comparable to who Colorado's playing? Isn't it TCU they're opening the season against, right?
Yes, TCU, yes.
Do you think they're beating TCU?
Well, TCU's got a new quarterback, I think, so.
Yeah, but Colorado's got 18,000 new players on the team that have no chemistry, I don't know, man. I don't think – do you hope they do good? Do you think – are you hoping Colorado has a good
what? I think it'd be interesting for college football. I think that, it pretty much college football is Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Georgia. Clemson. Yeah, I mean, throwing somebody in from a power, because I remember in 1990 when the Colorado Buffaloes under Dan McCarthy, won the national championship, and they played Notre Dame, I think, in back-to-back like Fiesta Bowls, and it was fun to watch them beat Rocket Ismail 10-9, and there's some things, and obviously they're not one of those teams that are always going to be in the mix, but every 30 years it'd be nice to see what they can come up with. And so, yeah, I think just for the landscape of college football and something different, maybe like a nice 4 or 5 year run, because if Deion has big success, there'll be other schools calling him. Let's be real. And if he fails, then
USC,
well,
I could see.
Yeah, I could see it. Yeah, or maybe UCLA trying to show up USC or somebody like that. Or
plus the move to the
Oregon.
Big Ten, they need to make a splash. With the Oregon too, because Oregon hasn't done shit really in how many years. So I think it's I don't know. I wouldn't be against them like winning, getting near the top, because this year they're not making. There's no way. I will put Ed's money down, his paycheck right, Ed and Columbus's paycheck right in front of me. I'll put it down. There's no chance for making the college football playoff this year. There's no chance. No chance.
Oh, I believe you're absolutely right. I think they're gonna have like 3 to 4 losses, and that might be minimum.
Now next year, right? Because it's the expanded playoff, I believe, starting the next year they start.
Yes.
There's a chance that they could get in due to experience. If they only have 3 losses this year, if it goes 5, 6 to 6, I think they play 12 games around.
Yeah.
If they go 500, you think some of those guys are leaving? The big names that they might have got, they think that they're going to head out because they went 6 and 6, and like they're going to say, "Oh, the way that Deion, coaches it, it's not going to work." Blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? With bigger players.
Well, there's always I mean, here's what I look at. If he's losing with his players, they're getting significant playing time, and the losses they're not getting blown out. Then I could see it. They could make a run. Then in the next year, like you said, with the expanded college football playoff, I could see that scenario playing out. If they get blown out, if he's telling kids to come to Colorado, they're not getting the playing time. He's kind of whispering in their ear and things like with the transfer portal. I mean, there's these kids.
It's the Wild West now with that.
Exactly. Yeah. So I could see honestly with Colorado and Coach Prime, I could actually see that as being the biggest turnstile when it comes to the transfer portal and having the most kids and everything each year because of what he's trying to bring in and
I agree with you. It's I don't know. Like I said, I hope I'm not against either way, but I think if they have the potential. This is a hot take. If Deion stays there and they start, getting that upwards motion, they might be able to turn into the USC with like Leinart and Bush in a couple years because they have the hype. It's the celebrity, even though it's not even near Colorado's Colorado, right?
Oh,
it's
absolutely,
not
absolutely.
But if you look at like the USC type thing, they were movie stars at that time. You were, how do I phrase this a polite way? I was very young at that time, right? You were, probably around my age when that was going on. So that was probably your prime of your, loving sports aspect of it, right? When USC was running college football for a couple of years with Pete Carroll. So I think that Deion could make Colorado big just because he's there, and if they start winning games, getting primetime games like they will with him there, and they win those games, I think there could be some fans, just casual celebrities that could be interested in Colorado being there within the atmosphere and kind of building it to what USC was. I mean, that's a very hot take, I think. I don't think that's a common – people are saying that, but I think there's a chance that could happen. What do you believe, Ed?
And we're back.
He's back. Ed's back. All right, Ed, I want to hear your take on this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, obviously the Cosmos didn't want to hear what I had to say, but no, I think that rephrase the question for the audience and myself as I.
Yeah. So I was, like I said, I said that he could turn like Colorado and Deion Sanders. Hot take, like I said, is they could become the USC with Pete Carroll, Reggie Bush, with just the celebrities around the operation and building the hype of it. If they win those primetime games on TV, the casual celebrity fans will just, be, because they know Deion, they're probably tight with Deion, some of those, celebrities like Snoop Dogg goes at USC, right? And just attract some of those big name celebrities on the sidelines and kind of build the hype like it was with USC back then. And that is if Deion stays there. I don't think he will. I think that if he has the success, he'll go to USC or go to UCLA where the market's bigger and there's that. And if he does that, I think USC could turn back into what it was with Reggie Bush and Leinart and all that, and Carson Palmer back then.
Absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. I think the state of college football with the NIL money and
That
everything
too.
like that, it is about the hype. You look at even Quinn Ewers and somebody like that. Look at Texas. Every year it's with the hype. Oh, they're back. Texas is back, and they still get the big recruits, and now they get to translate that to winning on the football field like they did like in the 70s, and even with Vince Young in 2005. But no, I think hype is the one thing that keeps college football programs going, especially these big programs, big dollar, big donors. So yeah, I absolutely think that, and it's only going to take maybe half a season for Colorado's back, and
Correct.
here
That's
comes
what
the
I'm saying.
Buffalo stampeding and things like that. So yeah, I totally believe that. Look at USC. They had been down for quite a while, and a couple of recruits and everything. And in LA, it's Snoop Dogg's with them and Pete Carroll, and it's a fun place to be.
The reason why I also thought of this is because on my flight to Cleveland, I watched the Trojan War 30 for 30.
Nice.
So I got it was like about an hour and a half. I got a good grasp of all that when I was watching it. So that was my mind going into that. But I don't think it's going to be either all this or all this with Colorado. I don't see them just sticking in the middle. I think it's going to crash and burn, or it's going to be largely successful. You know what I mean? I don't think it's going to be in between.
Oh, you know what? I think you're totally right, because I don't think Coach Prime he's not a 500 kind of guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's not going to work. It's either one way or the
Correct. And then I was watching something with I don't know, you know Marty and McGee at all? I don't know if you from ESPN. They were talking about college football, and he was saying, he was in the Pat McAfee show, McGee was, and he was saying what he's worried about is with all these changes, right? And you're moving all the like USC, UCLA to Big Ten. You're moving the college football playoff wider, right? He said he wants his games on Saturday to feel like Saturday college football games, and his games on Sunday to be Sunday NFL games. Like, he doesn't want it to the college to turn into the NFL. He kind of wants it. People enjoy college football because of the uniqueness of it. It's different than NFL football, right? Which I agree. All those extra overtimes, they're going 75 to 76 games, right? When they're going in the
turning into basketball scores.
Yeah, exactly. The shootouts. And then with the conferences, the sad thing is you expand those playoffs. You're going to say the only way a team is going to make it is in the Big Four conferences. You're not going to make it into those playoffs, really, if you're not one of those Big Four conferences, or Power Fives, I should say. That's the other worry that's going into this, is those teams that are smaller, or the ones like the USC, UCLA that have their own, they're going to shift into the bigger, Big Ten. And then it's going to kind of just, like I said, have all the talent in kind of one area. And then the other thing is, I don't know if you saw it. Now there's only teams. It's not even the Big Ten now anymore. It's whatever the Big
14.
That's what I was going to say.
It's going to be 16 when UCLA and USC join.
Exactly. It's a lot of teams. What they're doing now is I'm sure you saw it. If you have a rivalry, you have to play that team, right?
Yep,
so you're Penn State. Penn State doesn't have one, right? So, which is, I'm sorry, Ohio State wasn't one, just because Ohio State only has Michigan right now. Right. But the protected games you have, that kind of sets your schedule as what it is, and you're not going to expand the games in the regular season, So it's still going to be those certain amount of games. You wouldn't see those crossovers as much because of all the conference games now you have with all those teams. So that could be the tricky thing too, is that. And then don't know if you realize this. I didn't realize this, but with the playoff expanding, the championship will not be till the end of January now. So college football is going like a whole extra month practically, because of extra games, and they have the weeks in between, and it's not like, so it's actually pushing the season farther back now, and it's not ending as soon as it did before.
Well, think about this too, with the getting away the divisions in the Big Ten. You could have, obviously, Ohio State, Michigan play the last week of the season. You could have them play in the Big Ten championship game. And then with the expanded playoffs, who's to say they don't meet, in the semifinals or the championship game? They could play 3 times a year.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. That's what I'm saying. It's interesting how, we'll see how it goes. It's kind of like, I was thinking baseball too. Baseball changed the rules. All the upset fans drew to start the season about the rule changes. It hasn't bothered me. I've watched a good amount of games, and you haven't seen much, on TV or on social media about major complaints about it. I think it's helped baseball personally.
Well, people like to complain and everything, and it's something we're not going to complain about. And I just looked at the calendar, and I know you probably know today's a special day. 7 years ago, the Cleveland Cavaliers won the championship. And so, can I get a Casey story? About that day? Do you remember obviously waking up that day? Anything special about that day? You wanna tell the audience? Tell
It's gonna
me.
be very lackluster but interesting, I
Okay.
think.
Well.
So I'm gonna date myself young here. I graduated high school in 2016. So that was the year I graduated high school. I went on vacation to Punta Cana for my high school graduation. And game 7, when we won the championship, I was in Punta Cana in a hotel room with the worst sunburn I've ever had in my life. Um,
Did you
so
get the chills? Were you getting chill? Like were you getting cold? Were you just aching? Was it?
it was crazy because it wasn't even like that big of a thing. You know what I mean? Like, it sucks because I didn't get to enjoy it because I wasn't in Cleveland. Now, the same year, we both know who made it to the World Series. Cleveland Indians at the time. I went to, with Peyton Vince, I went to a lot of the games outside and watched it on the big screen and everything, and stood there and watched it outside the stadium. They have like the kind of you know what I'm talking about. Ed? You might
Yes.
not because you're down. You still on TV though.
Well,
You know what I mean? Like the stuff they have out. So you're in the game, but you're actually at the stadium still and everything. I went to a lot of those. If they would have won the World Series, I would have cried, for sure. If the Cavs won the championship this year, I would have cried. But crazy enough, it didn't feel that much to me back then, just because I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like, I love Cleveland sports, huge
okay.
Cleveland sports fan, but I don't know. That's a very high take for Cleveland too. Cleveland
Yeah.
sports fan here, but yeah, I think I was in Punta Cana. No one else even around me was a Cavs fan per se. Whereas like you're in the setting of Cleveland, it makes it more special. Like if the Cavs won the finals this year, I probably would have flown back home to watch those
To be
games.
with the.
Yes, to be around instead of all I have for Cleveland is
Yes, beautiful.
right there, behind me. So
well, Casey,
go ahead.
speaking of championships, we have a special guest on, Dan Wetstein, and obviously his Denver Nuggets are NBA champions. I can't wait to get him on and actually get him on right now. And I got one question for him as I bring him on. Dan, how are you doing, Dan? And I got one question because I did a little bit of homework for you. Did you get your AC fixed?
Yeah, well, kind of, sort of. I'm not as hot as I was. Turns out there's a leak in the Freon or whatever, so they got to fix that. But they kind of patched the hole up, so I'm not sweating, but it's not exactly cool either. So
Okay.
Interesting fact for me: I grew up in a house with no air conditioning, so I am used to no air conditioning. I mean, I was in Cleveland, but there was no AC, and it's horrible to sleep at night some of those days.
We had one swamp cooler in the kitchen when I grew up. That's all that we had for AC, so I understand completely.
Yeah, it's a struggle. I got the shirt on for you right here.
Yes, look at that.
I see the MVP, number 15. I like it.
That's right. I didn't lose the trophy, though.
We're glad to have you on. We know your Denver Nuggets just won the NBA championship. Can we get your initial thoughts? And just obviously, you know what? We can talk about the X's, the O's, on the court stuff. But as a fan, obviously it's the first championship for the Nuggets. I always like to get into, one thing about sports, we could talk about the plays and the players, but what makes sports special are the fans and how you feel and how sports make you feel. How do you feel right now that you are an NBA champion?
I was so excited during my post game after game 5, I lost my voice. Like, I had been screaming so hard, so loud. I had the dogs howling with me. Like, we were singing "We Are the Champions," me and the 3 Huskies. So we were having a good old time. It's been 38 years in the making for me, 47 years in the making for the city of Denver when it comes to a basketball championship. We've got to bask in the glow of literally every other sport. I mean, even lacrosse won a championship before the Nuggets were able to. So the fact that we were able to sit there and watch our Nuggets go out, not only get to the finals, but actually win it in their first time there, which typically doesn't happen with franchises.
That's correct.
Yep, usually that first time is kind of like get your feet wet, figure out how things are going. This squad just went in and really dominated outside of 3 quarters in game 2. They just absolutely waxed Miami. So to see this team go in there, believe that they are them, and do their thing in such a short time, just 5 games, and just absolutely dominate, would just made it so much sweeter. There's no consternation of, oh, y'all just got lucky. You just kind of squeaked it out. They dominated. They showed why they were the number 1 seed, and just went out and just kind of plastered it and just made it known who's the best team with the best player in the world.
I have a question, Ed, if you don't mind.
No.
All right. So I got a question for you, Dan. So going into the season, right? Starting this NBA season, did you think that this was truthfully like this could happen? Do you think that going into the season, you thought this was a great chance you'd win the finals this year?
Yes, I did. I was a true believer from day one. As soon as I realized that both MPJ and Murray were going to be healthy, that was the kicker for me. Because really, the reason that they came up short after the bubble and the 2 years after that was the fact they just didn't have a healthy roster, whether it was Murray or MPJ or both at one point, both being out. One guy just can't win in a team sport. I know how so many people that love their YouTube highlights, they want to go and they want to talk about the LeBrons and the Devin Bookers and those guys that go out and score 50 a night, but they don't look past the highlights. They don't watch the team game and realize that hero ball doesn't win you championships.
Yeah, and firsthand with Melo, right?
Yes.
I was going to say Melo.
Yes.
Yeah, because I was going to say that I was watching the game, right? And I was thinking, I was like, Melo's never going to get his number retired now. I said, because Jokic has that 15. And I said, I can't see them retiring Melo's number. I don't know what your guys in Denver, your opinion of Melo was in the time he spent with you guys. Because wasn't it a kind of a rough exit with going to the Knicks and kind of wanting his way out of there? But it's interesting to me because Jokic is the same number, carries that team, but totally different player than Carmelo Anthony was for you guys.
100%. To me, I say you just do it both. Like, I mean, you look at Denver, they did it with Frank Tripucka and Peyton Manning. So it's possible to be done. Mariano Rivera is going to have number 42 retired, even though it's, Jackie Robinson. So it's not an uncommon thing. I don't know why people consternate over that. To me, it's a nothing burger. I say just retire both numbers. They're both great nuggets. I love Melo. Melo really made me fall in love with basketball again after that period of, I'll call it nothingness between Antonio McDyess and Mutombo and Melo. Like there was just a wasteland of terrible basketball in between.
Welcome to Cleveland too, yeah. I understand that. Yeah, I get that.
Pretty much everybody in Denver just stopped watching the Nuggets. They didn't care. It was a terrible franchise, had terrible owners. Everything was bad. Then they got Melo. And that made the whole city fall in love with basketball again. Then you add in, yes, he was old, but then Allen Iverson with him. So you had that 1-2 combo going on.
Wasn't Chauncey Billups?
Baby Blues. What's that?
Yeah. Chauncey Billups, wasn't he on around that time? Didn't he go to the Nuggets for a bit?
Yeah, Mr. Big Shot, Colorado kid, Colorado native.
Yes, Buffalo,
all kinds of great storylines. But to go about the rough exit, the whole thing with Lala wanting to be in New York, that's really kind of why he pushed his way to the Knicks, on top of the fact that franchise refused to build around him. They realized that he was a cash cow. It really reminds me of what happened with Nolan Arenado in baseball. If you want to go cross sports, is that he wanted out because he wanted to win. And at the time, the Knicks were winning. They might not have been winning championships, but they seemed like maybe a piece away. He might have been that piece. Unfortunately, they had to give up way too much to get him. So he really was kind of in the same situation, just in a bigger market. So he got beat down even harder than he did here in Denver. But to me, I think he's a great nugget. He made the town fall back in love with basketball. You've got to respect that and give the man his respect and retire that number. And then again, when Jokic retires, you can just do it again.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
I don't think Jokic even cares if he gets his number retired.
He doesn't care. He got a trophy. He just wanted to go see his horses.
Yeah, the interesting thing too is, I just thought about this now talking about it. Jimmy Butler, right? I like Butler, but you look at how he, this finals and everything. If I get in the Hall of Fame, I'm not going. I don't care. I don't want to hold this Eastern Conference championship because I'll hold the finals championship. I don't need the recognition. My team could have it, right? Jokic is that player, but he doesn't advertise that he's that player. He does it, and his actions show that he is that team player. Whereas Butler, he says these things, right? But is it just for the positive media attention that he gets to say, oh, I'm a team player, I don't need this, blah, blah, blah. But like I said, Jokic, I saw it firsthand at the end of the finals. I was telling Ed before you came on. I'm sure you obviously saw it. Maybe you were yelling, you didn't catch it. But during the end of the game, everyone's on the stage. Jokic is just hanging out back there, just like that couch behind me. Not, just hanging out, standing there, not doing anything. His MVP trophy still sitting in the front with his family back there, right? Doesn't even – it's like a normal day for him, it seemed like, right?
He lost the trophy at one point.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't even like
cares.
it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy to think about like how that is. But that's a great player to lead a team, And someone said, I'm not sure if it was him or Murray, but it's more than the championship. They're gonna be friends their entire life. Like they built the bonds and connections this year that they're just so close. It doesn't even, it means more to him that they have that friendship for life than that championship for life.
Yes.
You know what means more to me than anything right now? And if I don't do it, and I apologize, Dan, if I don't show the guns, do you need a pre-workout? We Like Sports Podcast and Titan Nutrition have teamed up. Head over to TitanNutrition.net.
Here you go, Dan.
We Like Sports and get 10% off your order. Doing a little housekeeping right now. And also, don't forget to check out the Snooze You Lose podcast.
Black Bookie.
The Black Bookie. He has you set for this Sunday with the Snooze You Lose pick of the week. This will surely add sports entertainment fun, especially when you have more corn in your purse. So we got the housekeeping out of the way, Dan. We can talk now here. Let's do this here. I see you got, we'll talk more Nuggets, but I want to get into Broncos. I want to get into Rockies. One thing I'm fixated with Denver sports, and here's why, because I'm a Cleveland fan. John Elway obviously ripped my heart out as a young child. So that kind of throws that monkey wrench into my sports entertainment over the years. But I will say one thing. Congratulations, city of Denver, because just like in any sport, whether it be golf or tennis, you are now a Grand Slam city champion, winning a championship in all 4 major sports. So congratulations to the city of Denver. And also yesterday, as I started off the show, congratulations to Wyndham Clark, the golfer, United States Open champion. Hopefully there was no gunplay in the city of Denver last night for his for U.S. Open championship. I don't think they get down that way with golf, but
we're not that excited.
Yes,
we're proud for our hometown kid, but no, we're not.
No parade.
No.
I had about it though.
I thought John Morant was at you guys' celebration. That's all, but that's my only joke. That's my only
That
joke.
would make a lot of sense. That would explain a lot of things.
That would explain a lot.
Yeah, the puzzle pieces are going together now. Yeah.
Instagram, we might find out.
That's right. That's true. That is true. That comes out in a couple days probably. Adam Silver, check that one out.
Exactly. Another 20.
But so some things so speaking of the Denver Nuggets, obviously, we can talk about their championship, but I'm sure we got, I myself want the Cavs to win next year, and so does Casey. But does Denver repeat? Because there's been some changes in the NBA recently. Bradley Beal going out to Phoenix. Who do you see as your biggest challenger? Or is it just basically Denver's so good if they play their brand of basketball, it's going to be tough to beat them for the next 2 to 3 years?
I mean, they have their entire starting lineup locked up for at least 2 years. The only free agent this offseason that's a possibility is Bruce Brown if he declines his player option. So this team is primed to run it back and potentially create a dynasty. Something that people haven't talked about enough is the oldest star on the Nuggets roster is Jokic, and he's 28. Just 28. So there is a plethora of time and ability for this team to not only run it back once, but multiple times, especially with the way that they gel and they just genuinely love each other. If you watch the parade, you can tell these guys are a family. They are a literal team, and they will run it back with each other. I don't see Bruce Brown going anywhere. I don't care about Bradley Beal in Phoenix. Kevin Durant didn't make a difference for Phoenix when it came to facing the Nuggets. I don't see Bradley Beal doing it. And for a little bit of a tangent here, Jamal Murray is 18-4 in his career in games against Devin Booker. So they can sit there and they can have all the
did his homework
games they want. Yeah. So he can sit there and put down 50 all he wants. The team that is the Nuggets is better than the couple of players that is the Suns.
Yeah. I tend to agree with that. And, one thing about, watching them play a unselfish brand of basketball, watching the Cavs go against Golden State, it was very frustrating because no matter how good the Cavs would play, the ball moves. I always say this, my son plays basketball and, I help out coaching sometimes. And, it's easier to move the ball when you pass it than it is to dribble. These kids fall in love with dribble, dribble, dribble. But
That's
I see
the best way to break the press. You break the
Yep.
press with passing. You don't want to dribble the ball down when you're breaking that press.
And watching Denver, especially when you have a guy like Joker is, the shots that he can make, even if you're playing the best defense ever, it's got to be so demoralizing because like the 3-pointer, I remember him and just kind of throwing it up or whatever,
Over
making
80.
it. Yeah. And then exactly. And then a couple times he's in the paint, he can go with his left or his right hand and kind of just throw up. It kind of looks like slop, but to him, because he's so good, it always seems to go in. And it's just like, I don't know how you defend him. And then his passes, then he can pass for a big man that can pass like that. It's unfair, and he should get a citation.
That's exactly why you can't defend him. I know all the Embiid stands and the Giannis stands and the Devin stands that, again, they're all about the dribble, dribble, dribble. They're all about the hero ball. They like the and one mixtapes and all of that good stuff. Jokic is just that guy. Coach Malone says it best. He has just such a high basketball IQ that every time down the floor, whether it's a pass, whether it's a shot, whatever the choice is that is the best choice on that particular possession, he makes the best choice every single time. And it's why you cannot defend him. You want to go into a zone, he's going to pass you out of it. You want to go man-to-man, he's going to drop them teardrops over you. And even if it hits through him, like you said, that touch that he has, it's going to go in. It's going to bounce around a couple of times. It might not always look pretty, but it's going to go in. And that's all that matters. That's what the big honey is all about. He's not about being pretty. He's about getting the job done and winning games. He doesn't care about the triple doubles. That's why he gets so many of them. It goes back to the adage of the person that doesn't want power is the one that wields it best. He's that guy. He doesn't want it, but because of that is what makes him so great.
I agree. And if you said if you drop the zone, you go to man-to-man. Prime example is Game 5. When they ran that zone defense, he sat in the center at that free throw line. No one's there. You get him the ball, he goes down. If you don't collapse, floater. If they collapse, kick it out. Right? So that and they moved him man-to-man, and he still couldn't stop it. Right? Because then he was just bodying whoever was guarding him because no one was big enough to stay with him. And then if you saw Bam, it was so gassed, they had to take him out. You put Zeller in for 1 minute, kicked his ass. And then he had the mismatch every single time down there, right? So it's what it was. It's a perfect example is Game 5. No matter what you do, if you have the shooters, like you said, Porter Jr. out there, Bruce Brown out there, even Aaron Gordon, he's had a good year for you guys. You have the players, KCP, that if they collapse in there, you have to have those guys who hit shots. And that was a big LeBron thing with us in 2016, 2017, 2015, where if you don't have those shooters that could knock those shots down, then it becomes a one-man show. But you have those guys that could hit those clutch shots when it needs to get hit. And a good example, you might not know Isaac Okoro that well, but me and Ed know Isaac Okoro real well. When he is on the court, he sits in the corner for the Cavs. He's our 3-man. It's right in the corner. No one guards him. No one guards him. You give Jerry Allen the ball, they don't even go out to him because they double team Allen and then he kicks out, misses 3-pointer. So that is the issue is we don't have a guy who can make a 3 like that in those scenarios where you kick it out and it has to have that cover so you kick it back down low. Then one-on-one, man just dominates down there, right? That's what you need to have, and you guys do have that and had that. And good vision from Jokic when he's down there to kick it out wherever it's at.
Exactly. And that's why KCP, even though he was a bit of an under-the-radar kind of move last offseason with that trade, he was a crucial piece because that's exactly what the Nuggets needed. They needed that extra 3-and-D wing, a guy that's going to knock down the three-pointer, then go down and play defense. And that's exactly what KCP, especially in the last game, like he made probably the biggest play in Nuggets history with that final steal in the last couple of minutes that really kind of sealed things up. And it was a perfect microcosm of what he was. Right before that play, he goes down in transition, smacks a 3, and on the very next possession makes the steal, seals the win, championship, Nuggets. It was completely crucial.
Book it.
That he's done on both sides.
I agree. Like I said, that was we've talked about it like last week too. Like because we're all Cleveland fans, do we think that we are similar to the Heat or more similar to the Nuggets with what we want? So that's the the thing about it, I would prefer to be more like the the Nuggets with that team aspect, but we don't have those guys who can knock those shots down like you have, and not even just shooting like you said, stepping up on defense. Being the 3-and-D guy, and it's okay if one game they only have 4 points, right? But the next game they can go off for 20 or 15 when you need them to do it in the game plan, the way the defense plays you. It could vary. You need to have those guys, like even as Aaron Gordon. I think he goes under the radar. But if you have a game where he needs to step up, he's done it. And same with Porter Jr., Murray, you have those guys that, like I said, in that moment, they step up when you need to have it, and that's why you won the finals, in my opinion. And like I said, I'm okay. I have a Nuggets jersey, so I'm okay with the Nuggets winning. But
yeah, I love Aaron Gordon. I mean, who else can name a player that got a technical for being choked and a personal foul for being kicked in the nuts in the same playoffs?
Adding Columbus in the rec league.
Yeah, that's
this guy right here in the rec league.
Yeah. Woo! I was singing like Michael Jackson for a while after that kick to the,
That's great.
But Aaron Gordon, I've always been fascinated by his game. Ever since he got screwed by Dwayne Wade in the slam dunk contest.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah, I knew him because he was down at the Magic, so he didn't do much at the Magic, and it's crazy to think, like, I'm sure when he was in the Magic, he's like, there's no way in hell I'm making finals anytime soon with this team, but he got lucky, got to a good team. Same with Thomas Bryant. I didn't even know he was in the Nuggets until Game 5 that he played for you guys, and same with some of those dudes. Yeah, and I'm surprised they didn't play him that much in that game. Like, I mean, I'm not familiar with that much, but Bryant wasn't bad for the Lakers. I was surprised you guys didn't play him that much.
Yeah, no,
I was amazed.
The real problem with him was with Michael Malone, you either play defense on every possession or you don't play. And with Thomas, he had selective defense. When he wanted to play defense, he's actually a pretty decent rim protector. He's got great size, great athleticism, but he's a lot like KCP that I've pointed out is that when his shots are not falling, the defense suffers. And he's young. Young kids are notoriously hard to break into the rotation with Michael Malone. The only reason Christian Brown did the way he did is because
I was going to bring him up. Yeah,
defense. Yeah, relentless defense every single time he was on the floor, brought a whole different type of energy. Thomas Bryant, again, he's just that guy that was kind of like KCP. He doesn't hit his shots. He doesn't play defense. And so with Michael Malone, that happens. You see the bench, and that's why he got to see the bench a whole lot and played 0 minutes in the playoffs. So obviously he did not have the trust of Michael Malone at all. Even when they needed a rim protector in the finals, they went to DeAndre Jordan. That's
what I was going to say was Jordan instead of Bryant. I want one more thing on the Nuggets. Now I do have some questions for Denver Broncos. But my last thing I want to bring up with the Nuggets is, I'm sure you know this, Dan, but it's rare that the Michael Malone situation where, he's been there for, 8 years, 6 to 8 years, I think, and they didn't win a championship before this, right? So it is extremely rare in not even just the NBA, NFL, MLB, for a team to stick with a coach for that long and be patient. And he even said it, I think, in his post game. It's so rare to have that faith in it. And again, as Cleveland fans, the negative is we saw the Browns, which get rid of coaches every year, right? So we know the turnover with it. So with having Michael Malone and being patient, sticking through it, you could have that dynasty through the patience you guys had with him.
Yes. Yeah. That is the key to this team being as good as it is. It's not just a collection of dudes. It is a family. It's why they break the huddle after every game chanting family. Not Nuggets, not let's win, not let's go, not kick some butt, nothing. It's family every time. They even ended the parade, making the entire parade and everybody there chant family to end the parade. So
that's what I think we're doing. We like sports. We should do that after every show. We should do that.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it.
Sure. I think we're going to copy that one off there.
Yeah,
but I said I want to go to the Broncos. I have a classic question that Ed probably will know what I'm going to ask. So I always ask Cowboy fans, do you think Dak Prescott's the answer? So I'm going to ask you, Dan, in Denver, do you think Russell Wilson is the answer to lead you guys to the promised land? And did you think he was before last season? Did it change in that time frame?
It has never changed. I have loved Russell Wilson since he was in Wisconsin. I fell in love with him there. He was a Rocky originally, drafted as a second baseman. found out he couldn't hit a curveball, so he went back to go throw football. So I'm happy to see him do it. I'm happy to see that circle come all the way back to where he comes back to Denver and possibly bring another championship. I definitely believe he can, and I think under the tutelage of Sean Payton, the problem with Russell Wilson last year is that, and I know this might sound weird to some people, is he's too coachable. Like, he will defer to his coach, regardless of how bad they are. And we all now know just how bad Nathaniel Hackett is at calling plays. He doesn't call audibles much, not because he doesn't know how to or he can't. It's because he always puts his faith and trust in the coach, no matter who it is. And he's always had Pete Carroll before last year. So it was a safe bet to do that. Unfortunately, he'd never really had a bad coach before when you look at his history. So he didn't really understand that sometimes you got to take the ball into your own hands and do your own thing, which he finally did in the last few games with the interim coach, where you saw him go out there and make audibles and call plays in the huddle that might not have came from the sideline, and they worked out. He did great with Jerry. That's when Jerry Jeudy started to bust out of his shell and show that he was that first-round pick and deserved to be. So Russell Wilson definitely to sync it up. He can do it. The fact that they got an offensive line now makes me even more. I believed it then, and I believe it now.
I can tell you, I've asked about 5 people, Cowboys fans, and not once said Dak Prescott's the answer. So you are the first person to question general with, like, is the quarterback you currently have the answer? You're one of the first ones who said yes on that. So do you think this year you're going to make it? And if not, what do you think the move would be? What do you think what would push you to winning a Super Bowl? What do you think's the next move you could make if you don't think you're totally with the team you currently have right now? What do you think the next step would be to get you over that hump?
It's all going to hinge on the middle of the offensive line and the middle of the defense. I know that sounds like maybe a bit of a cop-out, but Lloyd Cushenberry has been we'll say underwhelming since he was drafted out of LSU. He's going to be pushed by a 6th rounder and a 7th rounder in Luke Wattenberg and Forsythe that they just picked up this past draft. So that tells you all you should need to know, that a guy that was drafted in the 3rd round is being pushed by a 6th and 7th rounder on exactly how he has actually showed up on the field. I think the change to the new offense with Peyton will help him out, but he's been one of the worst centers in the league since he's been here. Unless he turns that around, no matter what they did with Ben Powers and Mike McGlinchey and getting back Garrett Bowles, it's not going to matter, because the quickest way to a quarterback, we all know, straight up the middle. If your center's not doing his job, then all hell's going to break loose on the offensive side. Then when you flip it to the defense, the middle linebackers, I love the tackling machines that are Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton, but they get absolutely exposed in the passing game, especially against the likes of Travis Kelce. Thankfully, Darren Waller's not in the division anymore, so they have to see him twice. But any type of athletic tight end or a big slot can absolutely wipe the floor with Josie and Alex, and it's not even close when it comes to their lack of athleticism. So those things worry me, and most of the top teams in the league that are Super Bowl contenders, they're built up the middle. They have great defensive tackles, linebackers, safeties that can come and rush up the middle. On the offensive side, especially look at like KC and all the other great teams, they have a great center that's great at lining up the line, changing the protections, all those good little nuances. So if those two things hold up, I believe a playoff contender is legitimate. But I'm not completely drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm not sold that this is a Super Bowl roster as of yet. I said those two big glaring holes are terrifying for me, especially when you get into the playoffs and get to those better teams. So Super Bowl, not so much. Playoffs, I'm definitely right there.
Well, something you guys could do too is, I mean, you see the Bills, you see the Rams in the Super Bowl, is they, mid-year, they get that Von Miller, they get that Bobby Wagner, they get those guys that, could push them over the hill too if they have a good season. Let's say your guys are 6-2, right, at that trade deadline. You could get one of those bigger name player veterans just to kind of boost you guys up and kind of step up like they have with those other guys in the past. Because how many teams have been in the Super Bowl that don't make a decent move at that trade deadline in the NFL? Really, if you look back to a lot of the history, even if they're not playing out, it's the chemistry and like the experience in the locker room too, I think, can help push it. So it all depends on how you guys do, getting 2. If you're 2-8 or 2-6 at that point, I don't know. If you're 6-2, they could make a move to try to, make that playoff push, make that Super Bowl push that they might can envision.
Yeah, and George Payton's great at those midseason trades. When you look back, Jacob Martin's, guys like that he's been able to go out, grab in the middle of the season and help the team out, definitely could see something. But you're right. It depends on what the record is and how they come out of the gate, depending on what George is able to do and whether he buys or sells.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, you host a show on Let's Talk Sports called Let's Get Some Answers. And I got a question for you. Is Sierra the hottest wife of all the Denver Broncos?
We know Dan's got boots on the ground over there, so he got all the wives of the players. So
yeah.
I mean, as far as I haven't seen all the wives, but as far as the ones I've seen, and I mean, I'm a bit biased. I've been a Sierra fan since she was doing songs with PD Pablo that nobody
my goodies.
Yes, my goodies. The original, too. Exactly. So
where's the poster, Ed? I don't see it.
I kind of had a crush on her, as I was growing up and stuff. So I'm a bit biased. I would choose Sierra over the rest. I mean, also, have we all not seen the way she dances? That's all I'll say.
Fair enough. That's a good answer. That's the answers we're looking for on We Like Sports.
All right.
Now, okay, so we'll crack into one more last question I have for you since you're wearing it. Colorado Rockies, they're in their usual spot, the basement. I was a big Indians fan for all my life, and I'm no Guardians now. But, so obviously Denver's big in football. It's a football town. I get that. And they love their hockey with the Avalanche and everything. But where is it with the Rockies, and is there any hope for them in the upcoming future?
Any big prospect? Nolan Jones, you took from us.
Yeah. Nolan Jones just got up. But some other guys that there's definitely a youth movement that could happen. And if they pan out, this could turn into like the 07 Rockies, things like that. You got Nolan Jones, you just mentioned. Ezekiel Tovar, that next multi-tool shortstop that they have, big, strong, fast, powerful shortstop. Zach,
just like Ed,
I believe is the second coming of my favorite player of all time in baseball, and that is Larry Walker. Ooh. That kid is something special. So much are so identical to each other. They're the same size, the same weight. They both bat left, throw right. I mean, it's insane the commonalities between these two guys. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him make his debut and come. Michael Toglia might be that second coming of Todd Helton if he ever gets that power to play in games. And then you have Eliuris Montero, which is probably the best prospect they got out of an Arenado trade. He looks like a possible DH of the future. You have right now catcher doing things we haven't seen. Elias Diaz is out there hitting for above 320 still, and we're
just like all the Cleveland catchers we've ever had have hit. I don't think 320 combined or 313 combined. I don't think if you added all three catchers on our roster up, I don't think it hits even 300.
I got you. Yeah. So there's some things, but the problem is that I don't see the pitching. Like there's always going to be players come out from that system that are going to be good when it comes to everyday players. But the fact that the system is so bare when it comes to starting pitching, that's what scares me, especially with all the injuries you've seen this year. Herman Marquez going down with Tommy John surgery. Antonio Sensatella can't stay out on the field. Austin Gomber, who is also part of the Arenado trade, has looked like an absolute bust. I don't know why the Rockies keep grabbing guys that have slow curveballs like that. That's nothing but a juicy pitch at a mile high. That is just home run DP fodder. But they keep doing it for some reason. I guess because he's left-handed. I don't know.
You got to get Ubaldo back, man. Ubaldo Jimenez, I think, is your answer.
That the answer is power. Like Ubaldo, Jorge De La Rosa, all of these guys all showed that the way to win in Denver is a hard moving fastball and a nasty slider. Those are the two pitches and then throw in a changeup every now and again to change it up. So if you do those things, you will have success in Denver. Why they keep going after sinker ball pitchers and curveball pitchers makes no sense, because that spacious outfield, even if you mishit a ball, like a lot of people, they talk about the home runs at Coors. That's not what kills you. It's those little dinks and dunks, because you play so far back in that giant outfield that when a guy mishits a ball, instead of it being a pop fly to an outfielder, it's a single or maybe even a double if they're really fast, like a Trey Turner or something like that. I can't tell you how many pop fly doubles I have watched and screamed about watching Rockies games, because some guy flipped up a curveball or a sinker that didn't curve or didn't sink, and then just gets deposited in a hole somewhere in the outfield. So until they fix the pitching problem, this team is going to be terrible. Because if you look at 07, at 09, all the years they've made it to the playoffs, and especially 07 when they made it to the World Series, that was the best pitching performances they've ever seen. Like when they went to the World Series, Jeff Francis was second in Cy Young. When they went with Nolan Arenado and them a few years ago, it was Kyle Freeland was third in Cy Young voting. They have to have pitching. Until they get that through their thick skulls, nothing's going to change. But as long as Dick is going to be Dick, they're going to be terrible. Until they fire somebody and hire somebody from the outside. They have not hired an outside voice in the front office since 1998 with Dan O'Dowd.
You're curious how many years? That's 25 years.
Yeah.
That's when I was born, so that's 25 years. I can tell you that.
JC is our math.
Since I was a fetus.
I was 13, so that tells you how old I am.
No. But Dan, no, I want to say thank you, Dan, for coming on. You've been awesome.
Pleasure.
Plug everything that you're on. I got your little bio here, but since you're here and you can do it better than I can, feel free. Let the audience know.
I'm gonna hop off before I don't want to interrupt Dan, but I got a big movie at 6:30. Elemental. I'll give you the feedback next week on the podcast.
Sounds good, Casey.
I could be on here for 3 hours and talk everything, but it was a pleasure, Dan. Thank you for everything. Ed, great as usual, and plug everything you got, Dan. I'll follow it all.
Appreciate it, man. Have a great one. It was a pleasure.
Yep.
Yes,
Thank you.
I am. He just kicked me out.
I got you.
All right. So, no, I am the answer is 42. As you see right there is my Twitter. That's one of the best ways to get me. I'm also on not Stock Sports doing my Let's Get Some Answers, which is every Tuesday. Tomorrow, I'll have a guest on. I'll ask them a bunch of questions about their team, get the answers of the burning questions and headlines for them, for you. And then on Thursdays on 5280sports.com, I have a show. The answer is 42. I'm just all about getting answers. And then I also write articles for e5280sports.com. So if you're into reading, I do that too. I don't just have to talk at you, but I can write words on paper too. So that's what I got.
Well, that sounds great. You sound better than the answer, Allen Iverson himself. So I implore the audience to go check out Dan because you know what? He's got the answers. He's looking for answers. He's the man for that. And I appreciate you coming on. Once again, congratulations on your Denver Nuggets, your rich and creamy Nuggets winning the NBA championship, because I remember in 2016, it was 7 years ago today that our Cleveland Cavaliers won their championship. So I know that feeling. It's a good feeling. It'll last forever. I will say one thing, after 7 years, I'm kind of getting that itch again to get another one. So, and hopefully, you guys, maybe I like a Cavs Nuggets finals. I wouldn't be, opposed to that next year. And we'll definitely have you on again. Definitely have you on again to talk. And
I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, okay. And I just want to say, check us out. We Like Sports Podcast. Mondays, usually around 5:30 to 6:30. We went a little half hour earlier today, but we will be on all platforms by tomorrow at 8 a.m. And everybody have a good one. And like I said, check out my man, Dan. And peace out, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.